I am delighted to welcome Dr. Richard Mungan. He's currently an African Regional Climate Change Coordinator at the UN Environment Program. We are delighted to having you today. Then thank you very much for joining us today. Then we will start with the first one, and it's related to how youth are contributing to climate action in your regions, and especially for you, Dr. Mungan, and what is your organization, what is doing your organization to support youth in climate change? Then we will start with Dr. Mungan. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Adriana, and to the panelists and to those who have spoken before. Thanks for the question. The reality is that to answer that question, I will put an African proverb which puts it in perspective, which is that birds sing not because they have answers. They sing because they have songs. And so the big question should really be, what do the youth have, and what are they using what they have to drive climate action? And when you look at that, what we need to understand is that these young people are quite energetic, they're passionate, and their creativity level is quite very high. They are demonstrating this, and they've demonstrated it during COVID, where they came up with over 50 innovations in the entire African continent. But to the second question, what are they doing with it, ingenuity, innovations, and all this sort of stuff? We need to look at three aspects: incubations, we need to look at knowledge sharing, and we need to look at data for policy. And what we have come up with in UNEP through our work is that we've tried to create an incubation space whereby we are developing a mindset tool called innovative volunteerism and engaging willing young people, and underline the word willing, because if someone is not willing, even if you give him every tool, he or she might not be able to actually take and bring impact to scale. So we're engaging willing young people and guiding them to retool their skill through what we call skills retooling. And what we're seeing is that these young people, when they are structurally guided, they can develop simple climate action solutions that are addressing community challenges, like simple solar dryers that are helping mothers in villages actually address the issue of post-harvest losses, like simple briquettes that are developed using waste, agricultural waste, to replace charcoal. And what we are noticing from this work is that the early adopters of young people adopting these climate action solutions, they are cross-hybridizing this with other actors in different countries. And this incubation space has actually become like not just a tool, but one in which knowledge is being exchanged, ideas are exchanged, and innovations are exchanged. And this is generating data for policy. For example, in Uganda, through our work where young people develop solar dryers, the data from those solar dryers have been integrated to inform the Uganda National Bureau of Standard Policy on market incentives to bring climate action to scale. So the overarching point is young people are doing a lot, but they need to be guided in a very structured way to see climate action as an investment opportunity and also a socio-economic opportunity.
Fantastic. Knowledge sharing, supporting innovations and incubator programs, because we are moving to the next question. Then, if we are talking about empowering youth and also creating opportunities for them, I would like to hear from you. What are these approaches that have worked well and why? Dr. Mungai, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Adriana. And I think Sanile and Siko, they already touched some aspects that actually are making these approaches successful. I think the last part by Sanile, he alluded to it very eloquently, that it's about socioeconomics. It's about what is in it for me. How can I put food on the table? How can I ensure that we put more money in the pocket? And that is what we are seeing from the work that we are doing, attractive to the young people. Of course, they care about the environment. Of course, they care about climate change, but they care about putting food on the table and money in their pockets. And if we miss that, that is where the problem will be, because one of the issues is to pitch climate action as an investment opportunity, as an enterprising arena in which young people can build themselves, create their own opportunities and own it. Because what we have been seeing is that when we look at the continent today, and this was already alluded to by earlier speakers, 60% of the continent is youthful. But at the same time, the informal sector that employs over 80% of people in the continent, especially these young people who are also in the informal sector, they have challenges. And when young people are turning agricultural waste to briquettes, it's not just because they're reducing the pressure on forests, it's because they're going to put money in their pockets. And what we've seen from our work is that actually briquettes are 2 times cheaper than charcoal. So the mothers in the community will buy it because it's affordable. Of course, at the same time, it doesn't smoke like charcoal. The mothers are actually accepting the solar dryers in the community, in their farms, because it's reducing their post-harvest losses. The economic dimension, the economic lens is actually going to be the gateway in which the NDCs will be implemented. So the overarching lesson that we have learned from these approaches is that if we miss the socio-economic dimension lens and the investment opportunity lens, the uptake of that and bringing climate action impact to scale will be a difficult road.
Excellent. And is the connection about climate change and how it is related to agriculture, to nature-based solutions, to water management, and creating jobs for young people is crucial for this transition. How can we scale up these interventions? What do you think is needed from your perspective? Because both of you have been leading multiple initiatives at the local, national, regional, and international level. What is really needed to scale up this effort and this initiative? Over to you, Dr. Mungan.
Thanks again, Adriana. I think one word have run through my interventions already, and this is one word called incentives. But these incentives need to take different forms. The first is the narrative. We need to move away from this narrative that adaptation or climate action is a social endeavor. It is not. It's a business opportunity. It is an investment opportunity. It is a socio-economic opportunity that can actually be able to lift people from the bottom of the pyramid and drive transformational socio-economic viable societies. That is one. The second is you can only go to war with the army you have. If we have young people who are over 60% in the continent and at the same time with 60% of them unemployed, and we are not providing them with the requisite skills, then even if we gave them all the resources and financial resources, we will not be able to build resilience. Therefore, skills retooling must become very, very important. And I think this has been silent because we talk about finance. Finance is important, but it is human beings that implement. If you throw the money on humans who doesn't have the requisite skills, that will not work. The third, we must leverage the informal sector because they are the ones who face the bulk of the challenges and build on what exists. And that also means we should leverage also on informal sector structures like communal cooperatives to use them as gateways and conduits in which we can channel resources to build their resilience. If we miss that and only focus on formal institutions, then we'll be missing out because as we speak today, the informal sector has a financing gap of 300 billion US dollars. And the fourth, we cannot be able to make decisions at a time where in the entire African continent, even though over 98% have ratified the Paris Agreement, not up to 70% of the continent have turned their NDCs into investment plans. Then we need data from what is already working to be able to put those investment plans that can spur the environment for investment. And the last is incentives, fiscal incentives. In this case, tax breaks, especially for the young people who are already driving innovations and driving those innovations, but not benefiting because there are no incentives in place. For example, tax breaks for those who are developing waste, turning waste to briquettes. Kenya is an example here that have actually, India 2021 Finance Act actually put in place a tax, an incentive whereby 16% of VAT, value-added tax, was scrapped on those who are going to focus on burgers and briquettes. This can actually bring behavioral change. Another last aspect, which is still under incentives, is when we look at the young people, most of them have the talent, the ingenuity, the ideas, and they are doing what they can do, but they can never access financing because most of the structures that are in place in the continent do not allow them to be able to get accessible financing. It is high time that a policy financial instrument that can be accessible through cooperatives be developed by governments, and just like we saw with COVID-19, where bailout stimulus were injected, so should be injected to ensure that you can have access to finance to drive climate action innovations. Thank you.
Fantastic. And it is one of the crucial points, how young people can access to finance and the skills development. And I think the experience that Paige is leading, not only in South Africa, but in the work also has a lot of elements. Then